This is Todd McFarlane's Spawn, the board game. It was produced by Pressman in 1995. Now, this is an interesting piece of memorabilia because this was produced right at the height of the popularity of the Spawn comic and just before HBO launched an animated series based off the character as well. So I thought this was a neat little time capsule from the 90s, and when I got the chance to pick up a copy, I was very excited to do so. So let's hop right in, starting with this amazing box art here. This just screams at you from the store shelf, does it not? Spawn is just popping right off the front of the game box. I love the titling. It falls right in line with the comic book titling as well. Now, they do mention this as being kind of an action-packed game, and I beg to differ, but we'll save that for when we actually critique the gameplay itself. When we flip it over, we see a nice close-up of the game board as well as the figurines that are included, which really are designed to steal the show, and that's quite obvious as well. It's a lift-off top box, and that's where the trouble begins because it has a cardboard space saver that I can neither make head nor tails of. It doesn't accommodate or hold the figurines safely at all. It's got some odd cutouts that look like it should keep the board from sliding around, but they're not quite the right dimension. It's also got different perforations on the corners, so one side folds flush, the other side has kind of an odd angle. So it really makes no sense, especially when you look at the components included in the game. So why don't we hop right over to the game itself? Now, there are 6 figurines included. We have 4 different versions of Spawn, and then we have the Violator, he's really big. And actually, this is another issue I had, is it's very obvious from the molding that his arms, when affixed to the figure, are supposed to actually be raised like this. But if you try to set him down, he can't stand on his own feet. And this piece is not missing a base. I did check on that with other versions, and no, this is just how the figurine came. So the way that you can bypass this is you can gently rotate his arms down a bit so his front arm balances him. But then the problem is where the joints meet up on the body doesn't quite line up. Now, another issue is he is so big that you cannot fit him in the box without disassembling. So the arms do pop off. Oh, I want to be gentle, though. I'm always worried I'm going to damage these. Here we go. The arms do pop off here, so you can lay him a little bit flatter, but even still, his tusks are just about the size or the width of the game box's depth or height there. So I'm not sure which dimension we're going to call this. But anyway, he barely fits and he barely stands of his own. Oh, I put his arms on upside down. See, this is the thing when you're disassembling and reassembling figurines. Okay, there we go. So he barely fits in the box. Now, he's not the only one that has trouble. The blue Spawn has a gun that needs to come off his arm in order to fit in the box there. And the yellow Spawn has a little rocket pack that ends up coming off of him. Now, the yellow Spawn can fit with the rocket pack, but you really need to glue that in place if you want it to stay. Otherwise, he's a little bit thick and chunky and it falls off, unlike the capes on the green and red Spawns here. But I will say for the figurines, we also have Overkill here, who's nice and chunky. He can stand on his own volition, and he fits in the box really nicely, so he doesn't cause any storage issues. The Spawns, for the most part, fit. You got to remove the one gun from him and look at the rocket pack on this guy. These are really similar to the figurines that were in the X-Men Alert game from Pressman that came out in '92. Very similar bases, very similar plastic construction. However, all of these are significantly more detailed, which falls in line with Todd McFarlane's brand. If you're familiar with not only his comics, but his action figure and collectible brand, he makes highly detailed, or his brand makes highly detailed licensed sculpts. I collected some of the Halo 3 figures when they came out. They look so nice. And so these figurines, though a little bit bland by comparison to that, they still don't disappoint. They are highly detailed for what they are, considering the era from which they came. And the color is denoted by these little sliding pieces that fit on the bottom of the spawns. Now, in the instructions, each spawn will start on their own corner based on their color. And I noticed that the art on each quadrant of the map, or quarter, I'm not sure how you want to divide this, but whatever. Has art that matches one of the avatars. And one thing I noticed was these little colored pieces that fit on the bottom bases are incredibly snug. So it's not something that you want to put on and take off frequently, even though the instructions say you can. So I could match this spawn with anything, but I just chose to put these on matching the colors that they had and just, call it, which I think most owners of this game would do. But I found it an interesting quirk that you were allowed to mix and match colors and figurines here. But overall, the figurines are nice, but they are. I guess I actually would like to paint these. The larger ones, like Overkill and Violator here, have some big seams, some big joints. Like I said, Violator has to come apart and also have his arms rotated in kind of an awkward way to make him stand. And that makes it even worse when you look at these. These are individual places on the board. Let's talk about the board and how the figurines interact with the board, because this is where we really start seeing the game fall apart. Right away, we notice on the box, it does mention that we have these colorful game cards, and we do. How the game works, it's very similar to like Ludo or Pachisi, where you're going to start in one corner, you're going to race around the board and return to your corner, and the first person to do so wins. Each person having their own respective corner, in each corner connected by these little arcs of spaces. Now, these are arcs because they are story arcs. There are 7 possible stories to assemble throughout the game. So each space here starts with a cover on the left and the 8th page on the right. And so as you're working your way across the arc, you have these spaces that either have 2 spawn masks on them by default, or that value changes as you add pages from a corresponding comic. So, for instance, many of these stories will have a cover card. It'll say cover right on top, and you can lay that on the spot here and start the story. Now, the reason you're going to be playing cards is at the beginning of the game, each player will start with a hand of 4 cards. These are comprised of comic book pages, comic book covers, and these extra little power cards like alley help and teleport and various other actions that you'll get to take in the game that bring the Violator and the Overkill character into play. Players will also have these dice that they roll to determine how far they can move, and power-up tokens that allow them to bolster their move. This is kind of a press your luck version of Ludo. So players will start with 4 cards, and to get the maximum amount of power or dice that you can roll to move forward, you would want to play, say, a page from a comic book onto a story arc. So for instance, if I had played the cover, that counts for 4 dice, and I can then roll to start my turn. If I wanted to play, say, another page, that's going to count for 4 dice as well, but I have to play a page that matches the color. You see I have a story arc on display at the bottom here. It's all these purple pages in order. So once the cover has been placed for one of the 7 possible stories, all following pages have to be laid down. They don't necessarily have to be in numerical order, just on the matching numerical space or numbered space. And they have to match the color of the cover, eventually making a whole track. Now, what's happening is as players play different cards will grant them the ability to roll different amounts of dice to power up to move their character. So the first phase of your turn, you're playing a card. Are you following me now? You start with 4 cards, you play a card. We're just saying hypothetically you play a comic book card right now, or a comic book page right now. It gives you 4 dice to power up. Now, I roll my dice, and there are 3 possible outcomes. I can get a spawn face here that counts as 1 power. I can get a blank that's neutral and doesn't count for anything. And once I get a blank, in most circumstances, I set that aside. Then there are Violator symbols. These allow me to move the Violator character around the board once he's in play. So he'll move the same direction as the characters, chasing them around the board. So I will want to keep track. I've gotten 2 Violators. Now, here's where the press your luck portion comes in. There's a 50% chance of you getting one of the spawn tokens, a 30% chance of you getting a blank, and a 15% or so, a little bit more. It's a 6-sided die, but you get the idea. One side is a Violator face, okay? So if I got a power-up face, I can choose to roll my die again and see now I got another power-up face. That means now I've accrued 2 power. If I want to keep going, I can keep re-rolling so long as I keep getting power faces. But if I get a blank or a Violator face, I lose all of the power that I've accrued. So in order to end my run rolling, let's say I rolled 2 or 3 successful times. For this one, we're going to say I rolled 2 successful times for power-ups. I'm going to say, okay, I quit. 2 happens to be the amount that's on one of these blank spaces. So let's say I was on this space and I wanted to move forward. Now I can move up 2. Now let's say I had scored 3, but the next space beyond that cost 2. Well, I lose those points. Now I can bolster these rolls. I know that sounds complicated, right? You're basically, we're going to cover this again. In this instance, I started with 4 dice. So I'm trying to rack up as many of these spawn masks as I can to move across these spaces. So I roll. I got 1 violator and 1 blank and 2 spawn masks. So I set the violator and blank away, and I can re-roll to press my luck. Now in this instance, I got a violator and a blank, which means now I lost all of my power and I can't move. See how that works? So if I declared after rolling those 2 power, I'm not going to press my luck, I'm going to take those 2, I could advance my character to the next space if the only cost is 2. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you're playing these comic book pages, some of them have different power values. So a blank space on this track only costs 2 power to traverse. So if I pressed my luck enough, I could feasibly get 6, 8, power and be able to move 3, 4 spaces. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I can play a card on somebody else's track. I can play a card to any track where the color matches. So if I'm trying to get 4 dice for my power and I have a comic book page that lines on this track, this one, for instance, lines up with the very next space that my character needs to go on. But now this one has 3 power. So what was a 2 power space is now a 3 power space, and it makes my character's journey harder. So you actually, and I can play that to any track. So as players are traversing different tracks along this map, if I want to accrue power, I can also hurt somebody. Like some of these go up to 4 power. And then if I get, say, when I'm drawing these cards here that have special abilities, if I get the overkill card, I can place overkill on one of these spaces. So for example, this one has 3 power. If I place overkill here, now it takes 2 power additional for me to get on there. So the total is 5. Every time overkill lands on a place, he makes it 2 more difficult to get on. So now I have to roll at least 5 power to advance 1 spot. Now, if I land on that spot with overkill there, I get to move him wherever I want. So overkill gets to move around the map at players' druthers in order to block other players. So you're laying down comic book pages that have different power values on different spaces, as well as laying down or playing these little special abilities. Like some of them are just help where you play it and it gives you extra dice to roll. Like Wanda here, Thoughts of Wanda give you dice to roll this turn. They give you 6 dice to roll this turn. So if I played this card, I have 6 instead of 4, which I would normally get from playing a comic book page. There's a teleport one that allows you to roll only 3 dice, but however many power you get, that's how many spaces you get to move ahead. So that can help you if you, say, have overkill in place. Now, Violator. If somebody gets a sneak attack card, they can drop Violator right on your space. Wait, right on your... Well, these spaces are awfully small. And I can't quite fit Violator on the same space, but we'll just, for sake of argument, say, well, what happens if he tries to get on a space with somebody who's standing on a card? Well, now So now the card slips around and I got Violator trying to sit there. And so if Violator does a sneak attack, then I got to roll 3 dice. And if I happen to get a Violator dice, then I can send at least 1 Violator comes up. So 1 die. See, I'm learning screw up the plural of dice just once on the internet. They'll never let you live it down. It'll send my character back to the cover or the beginning of that stage. So the Violator is designed to land on a space and send somebody back. So contrary to Ludo, where you land on somebody else's spawn and send them back, in this instance, you have the Violator moving around the board. And so when I'm rolling my dice and pressing my luck, any Violator faces that come up, he then moves around the board once a sneak attack has been played, summoning him into existence. So you see how this game is like an incredibly needlessly complicated version of Ludo. You're laying down track spaces based on these comic books. And here's another thing that I'm having a hard time with. So they talk about this beautiful art that you get. These are like the cards, the playing cards are like the size of generously sized postage stamps. You can't make out this text is illegible. Okay. Like I got out my phone and zoomed in, tried to focus and everything, got out a magnifying glass. You just can't. The dots per inch, it's not enough resolution for you to read the text, let alone some of the brilliant art is just lost. So it's like this tiny representation of the art. Meanwhile, the figurines are enormous and hard to get on. Some of these figurines are designed to share the same space at the same time or land on each other. And like the base of the figurine is almost as big as the card that it's on. This game needs to have a smaller figurine and bigger card ratio. Okay, we're not getting too far into this. All right. So we got 7 possible comics, 7 possible storylines, all 7 colors of the rainbow, each one with multiple covers, actually save for 2. Some of them have like 4 covers, some of them only have 1. It's really odd how that works. If you have a story that let's say all 4 arcs have a story and now you have 3 stories that have no home, then you play those to the discard pile and you get to roll 3 dice instead of 4. And then each one of these extra ability cards will give you different buffs for your dice. And before you roll, you can declare that you're playing one of these little power chips that can give you 1, 2, or 3 additional power as well. But if you have an unlucky roll and only get blanks and a violator, you lose that power chip as well. So again, it's press your luck, risk reward, and almost everything that you're doing is aggressive to other players because just plain playing one of these territory cards, you can really lock somebody into a space, sending the violator to send them back to the cover, sending overkill to block their progress, all very, very aggressive. Before we get too far, I want to talk about the rule book. This is actually quite lovely. Again, features fantastic cover art from Todd McFarlane. When we open it up on one side, we have a nice black and white saddle stitch. It's very similar to like a regular pulp black and white comic book bond paper here, really thin, really rough tooth here, but saddle stitched, and will definitely stand the test of time. They do have speed rules too to make the game shorter, but it removes a lot of the game mechanics. Now, here's the thing that Spawn fans will like. If you flip it over, you get a black and white illustrated comic, The Dead End here, and it's quite nice. It's quite lovely. So you do actually get a couple pages of a nice comic with really lovely black and white illustration and a well put together instruction manual. Now, coming back to the game, this is something that this review has gone off the rails so much because in practice, the gameplay is not so difficult, but to try to teach or explain it or even read it from the rule book, it's very convoluted. They really took an easy formula and just absolutely jacked it. They just added a lot of different variables. The board itself features some lovely art, but what's incredibly frustrating is, as per the instructions, you cover it up by dynamic of the gameplay with the deck of cards. They say put the cards in the middle of the board, the discard pile goes there, so you're covering up the central character right in the middle of the board, which, by the way, is a lovely rendition of Spawn. This is a great rendition of Spawn. Each quadrant does have an example of your character, but it's relatively diminutive. It's kind of small at that point. It's nice. I mean, okay, so all 4 sides have one picture of Spawn plus a bonus one in the middle. And a lot of your sides are going to be covered with your power chips because that's where, when I was playing at least, most of our players had their power chips. The cards that feature art, they're tiny. The art almost doesn't read, and then that translates to a playability issue because it makes the gameplay spaces small. So now, even just trying to interpret the amount of power you need just because of the markings here on the side of the card, you have, figurines crowding it. You got to move, and these are so thin and light. So not only are they small, but they're thin and light. So when you have stuff on the board, they're sliding all over the place. You're constantly trying to readjust them and keep them in place. And the gameplay is so wackadoo out of balance that if you're playing with 4 people, you're going to have the best time. If you play with 2 people, you're going to have the worst time because there's only one target. And if one person gets the upper hand in this game, they really get the upper hand. I'm talking, I had a gameplay session where I did not leave my start for 3/4 of the game. Every time I made progress, I should say you start on the cover and go. You start, once you start moving here, you only get sent back to the cover. But even still, the way that the game played out, the other player had a handful of cards. They actually remarked when we were done, they were taking it easy on me because they felt bad. Because one, every roll I made was absolutely whiffed. And when I did move ahead, immediately my own roll would send the violator back to me and send me back to where I came from. The other player initially played an aggressive card, sending the violator at me, but basically once they did, I just got knocked back and knocked back and knocked back just by virtue of how the game played out and my rolls. And then they actually revealed at the end of the game that they had 3 of the 4 cards in their hand were all designed to just continuously knock me around and knock me back. So if they hadn't just stopped playing it, I wouldn't have made the progress to halfway across one story arc that I did by the time they made it around the board. So you can see where that's incredibly frustrating. Even they didn't have a good time winning like that and had their own beef with how confusing it was to kind of play around with the power here, because you're playing cards to the board to build up power, which then you're going to use to traverse the board. But you have to pay attention to which color and which number page that you're playing. Like I said, there are multiple covers for the same, because they had different variants when they released the comic. So there's multiple cards or covers for the same story arc, but only one page, 2 through 8, for the given pages of a story arc. And as you're playing them, sometimes the only one that you have, or the only good move that you have that's a page, actually hurts you because it happens to be the color that you're on, and it increases the power of one of the spaces that you're trying to traverse. Conversely, savvy players will use this to their advantage and play a card that makes an opponent's space more difficult to traverse, which, I mean, I'm sure that's how the game is intended, but this, I am so frustrated with this game. I'm so frustrated because I want to like it, and I can see mechanics in here that are likable. That's the thing. It's a hyper aggressive, very strategic variant on the Ludo Pachisi formula. But this is like somebody wanted this comic book game based on a comic they were very passionate about, and they found a genie. And the genie wasn't like one of those nice Robin Williams genies. This was like the Wishmaster. Oh, cool, a lava lamp.
Who dares disturb my slumber?
A genie?
I am a djinn.
From a lava lamp?
Unconventional, yes. You have 3 wishes. For disturbing me, I will grant you 3, so I may return to my dimension.
Anything I want?
Make your wish.
Oh. I want a board game based off of a comic book that's cool. Like something dark, like Spawn.
Is that what you wish? Go on.
Yeah, oh, can I have figurines with it?
Do you wish it?
Oh, make sure there's like lots of great art from the comic as well.
Granted.
Yeah. This is one of those, you wished for this game to have amazing art, and breathtaking figurines and aggressive, exciting player versus player gameplay that would take you through different story experiences featured in the Spawn universe. And then what you got cheated you on everything. Sure, you got big, chunky figurines that feature nice detail, but they lack fit and finish where it counts. And they furthermore don't like some of this one not standing of its own volition, the balance being off, but also they don't enhance the gameplay. They hinder it. You can't fit them on the same spaces conveniently. They move the cards around. The cards themselves are a letdown. What I would love to see is the figurines be about the third the size that they are, half to a third the size, easily. Like, come on, this is gratuitous for this game. Shrink it down. I love figurines. I'm the guy who loves toys in my board games, but this is laughably bad. Okay, I would let the other guy do this review because normally I have another guy do the negative reviews, but this is so bad it's funny. So I don't even feel bad being negative. Like, the selling feature of a comic book based game is the art, and you can't deliver. This is what you do, Pressman. This right this is what you do. Like, I would love to see the board grow about 4 inches in both directions and then build up on the size of the cards and shrink down the figurines. Just even if the cards were double the size, which still isn't as large as a traditional French suited deck of cards, but just make them big enough and substantial enough where you can lay them down, you can see them, and maybe for crying out loud, I want to read them. If there's text on them, can I read them? If there's what is this? Like, okay, you know what? Just don't even feature a whole comic page then. And look at how much border you have on this one. Look at this crap. They could easily have made it better. Like, there's a lot here that could be liked, but this game's so bad. It really is just, how do you take everything that's supposed to be a positive aspect of the game and make it a negative aspect? I don't know. But after having played this game and had some hands-on time, here's what I can say. I appreciate having it in the collection as an oddity. I appreciate the art that's there. As a board game, I am no longer surprised to see that there are hardly any reviews for it on Board Game Geek and that it lacks any level of popularity, because I played this the very first time we played it, we went, I don't want to play this again. And it's really been tough to try to drag me into another round. And the fun factor, I can see where there is some fun factor to be had, but it's a rough teach and it convolutes a really simple formula. So in that regard, the funny thing is it's in practice, it's not a difficult game, but it just, you take a formula that's relatively well balanced, that's lasted hundreds of years. I mean, the Ludo Pachisi formula has been around for a very long time, more than that, like 1,500 years. And we reappropriate it and we throw in some extra house rules and tie it to a license and try to call it good. But the problem is when you offset the balance of a classic game like that, come on. Come on, there's so much that could be loved in this. And if you're a fan of the series, this might be a fun collectible for you, but you will be so disappointed by the art and the gameplay. Just, it isn't fun. It isn't fun. It's all random chance. It's all random chance and pressing your luck. You know what I noticed here was the further I fell behind, the more I felt that I needed to press my luck with every roll. Like, that's what really got me, was I felt like every time I was rolling, I just had to push it because I was never going to make it. And that feeling of desperation was the feeling of desperation was unpleasant. The feeling of constantly being trapped and stomped down was unpleasant. The feeling of stomping the opponent down was unpleasant for my opponent. I can see where having 4 people on this would be a lot of fun, but frankly, after that one round, when even the other person you played with went, yeah, that was cool, let's just not do that one, it's hard to try to convince other people, hey guys, this game is terrible, we got to play it. So I can see where it would be more fun when you had multiple targets on the table here to go after. Don't play this 2-player. Don't play this 2-player. There's so much here that could be liked and it didn't. It's a major missed opportunity. And I feel like this is just an absolute blatant cash grab. But like McFarlane Toys, known for superior sculpting and unparalleled craftsmanship. And then we get figurines like this. And then Spawn, known for just groundbreaking graphic art. I mean, this is, and when I say graphic, I mean graphic. He's a hell Spawn. And then you get. This is so laughably. This is so bad. It's so bad. I'm sorry. I will play it again. I don't feel that salty over it. It was just one of those. Sometimes you play a game that's so massively out of whack and off balance. That can be a lot of the charm too. I love a lot of games that are out of whack and out of balance. This is just so funny because of how it fails. Like it has everything going for it. It has theme, it has art, it has a classic formula, and it just insists on whiffing it so hard. If you get a chance to play it, try it out. Try it out. Oh, I don't know whether you're going to rage or you're going to fall in love. And I'm sure there's people who love this game and have fond memories are going to be commenting, how did you find this complicated? I'm not saying it's complicated. In practice, the game is actually quite fun. It's a rough teach, and it takes a very simple formula and adds a whole bunch of extra complexity to it to a hilarious degree. This is just funny to me. So yeah, I mean, I'll play it again, and I appreciate it for what it is, but I don't necessarily advise going out and trying to get this unless you are a big fan of Spawn and you just love the piece of memorabilia and want a board game oddity. I have a lot of board game oddities in my collection. I have it in my collection. So if you agree with me, disagree with me, comment below. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Spawn, the board game. Todd McFarlane, Spawn, the board game based on the extremely graphic novel. Comment below. Let me know how you feel. Thanks for joining me. Hey, thank you to my channel members, the Couch Potatoes. You guys are the lifeblood of the channel. You're the reason I was able to have this on the show. So thank you very much. If you want to become a channel member, check it out. You get free members-only content. Thanks for joining me again today. We'll see you next time.